Boy, it's hard for first home buyers and it's only getting harder. And we're going to go through some solutions this morning of what a first home buyer can do at the bright young age of 18 or 19 to begin that property path. Stay tuned.
And action. Good morning, Mark.
Sam, how are you, bud?
I'm good, man. How's your Melbourne Cup yesterday?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Not as good as you on the dance floor, though. Jesus Christ.
It's a secret.
Jesus. Disco Sam here.
What happens at the Melbourne Cup stays at the Melbourne Cup.
Disco Sam is live this morning.
Fun. For people that don't know, I went to Miramay Gardens with the team and, good fun.
It was awesome.
So, yeah, Mark.
This morning's topic, Sam.
18 years old, looking to buy, what to do. Buying 101.
Yeah.
Tips with the expert.
And the question, it seems to be something that a lot of the 18, 19, 20-year-old crew in the office are stinging to know and are always asking around colleagues in the office and particularly being in real estate. I think a lot of the it's just a question on everyone's lips, and we thought we'd go through because a bit of that Q&A, typical questions of what you would ask Sam, an 18, 19-year-old would ask, and typical answers the older guys are giving them, in the office of you got to do this and you got to do that. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get into
Sam,
it. So
starters, talk to me.
Best way to save?
Best way to save would be for your first home property would be to start small and don't kill yourself. So I think the problem is when as an 18, 19-year-old, you sort of think you got to save half or 2/3 of your wage, and it's so painful, and you're not having fun at all that you just quit it. And it would be a better attitude to say, I'm just going to do 50 a week for my property. And then after 6 months where you go, shit, that was easy. I can probably do a little bit more. How good's this? I've got a bit of a nest egg. Crank it up. You know what I mean? Crank it up to whatever makes you comfortable. But certainly I think it's build on your savings and don't sort of decide to, save 1 week and don't save the next. I think when you're saving for your first home, it's got to be small, it's got to be gradual, and if you can afford to increase that and still have fun, it's good.
Yeah, cool. Just looking at the comments, we've got Luke saying save, save, save. 2-minute noodles, go hard. Is that what you did, Mark? Your first place?
I think I was different because I sort of put my body on the line pretty hard at 18, so I'm probably not a good example because I broke all the rules.
Yeah.
So anywhere I could get money from, family, friends. I shouldn't say it. I won't. It's bad advice to say. High interest debt where I got that from, but at buying a property at 18, it was probably a bit bullish.
Yeah. No, it's tough. 18-year-olds nowadays, I've spoken to a lot of my mates, and they don't realise how long the process is to save up for that deposit and get everything sorted. So it's interesting. Another question: does it matter where you buy in, ideally, or is it more so just try and get in quick before prices increase, especially in the northern beaches?
I think the biggest lesson is supply is the enemy of capital growth. So you've got to remember that as a first home buyer, you want to plant a good seed that's going to grow well as you water it. So some plants will grow half as much, some plants will grow like crazy. And I think if you pick a suburb where there's low supply, it's very good. I think, look, if you look at Sydney, how it's trended the last year and the last 100 years, it's always been the champion capital growth area. Capital growth is how much the value of the property goes up. So it does, mate. I think it matters, and I think you got to stick to areas. And I've been saying lately, people don't realise that 10,000 things about your suburb where you live. The most riskiest thing you can do is go and spend all of your money and buy in a suburb where you don't know 10,000 things about it.
Yeah.
So you've really got to buy under your nose with where, when I say 10,000 things about the suburb, whether perhaps the shopping, medical, streets, good streets, bad street, regions, just so much. There's like so many things, coffee shops. There's so many things you learn about your suburbs. You got to know 10,000 things about your suburbs. But without realising, Sam, you probably know the 30 suburbs in the Northern Beaches. You probably know 10,000 things about them because you've lived in the area. So it's still good anywhere.
Yeah,
keep it under your nose.
Yeah, I see that as well in rentals. A lot of people coming in from like the Mossman and things like that, and they don't, or even further from there. Now that COVID's sort of slowing down a bit, and they come to a lot of money into this place. Want the best of the best, and they don't know the suburb that well. And then over time, they end up catching up with everything. But it's interesting, very interesting. Exactly. In regards to 10-year-olds, would you, for advice-wise, would you use it as an investment property or sort of move in there? If that makes sense.
Well, it's hard. Good questions this morning, Sam. You're on fire. It's hard because a lot of your first home grant incentives are modelled around you living in it because it's your first home. But not a lot of people realise that if you literally can't afford to live in it, you do have the right to rent it out after you've lived in it. So, you may live in it for 3 months, 6 months, 3 months come into hardship, or 6 months, you go, you know what, this is too hard. And you go, okay, I'm going back to live with the oldies or flatmates because it's cheaper and I'm going to rent it out. So I think that definitely those grants are pretty strong. With 5% deposits you can do, using your super, your voluntary contributions in your super you can do, and zero stamp duty you can do, but they're not eligible if it's an investment property, but you can switch it later.
Right. Yeah, cool. And another thing as well that I'm seeing recently, especially in the Northern Beaches, the increase of off the plan builds, and especially in DY, and you're starting to see it Manly Vale now. Any advice with that, with young people? They've saved up their cash and think of buying off the plan. What's the go with the incentives there and all that jazz?
On the Northern Beaches, and I appreciate we've got an audience that are Sydney-wide, maybe even Australia, and international, but international, London, Paris, New York, DY. But I think it's a little bit speculative because sometimes you don't know the builder, the quality of the build, exactly what you're getting. But I think most first-home buyers are priced out of that new stock. So because of the price, so it's normally second-hand.
Right. Okay. So, but would you personally, would you choose off the plan as an expert? Would you go for it?
Yeah, I think that if there's value there and you're in a low stock suburb, for sure.
Yeah, especially.
And I know the builder.
Yeah, because we've got the Havana at the moment, but very interesting getting involved with that as well. Any other tips from the oldie, or from your point of perspective to an 18-year-old, which is myself? Any advice you'd give there?
I think whenever I'm talking to someone that age, the one thing that they're scared to do is ask people for their time and their experience on what they've done. So I think you got to realize that's probably the best gift, that, knowledge and confidence. And the way to gain that knowledge and confidence is by opening up those questions to people. So, and I think you got to be careful where you're asking those questions. Mark and Oldie. I think you got to be careful where you're asking those questions. You don't want to be asking your mate sitting next to you for advice who doesn't own any property, who's 16. You want to be asking people that have done particularly well in property or finance and things like that, and make sure we're getting advice from. But the first cab off the rank is ask for a referral for a mortgage broker, somebody good that cares, that wants to help, and get opposite that mortgage broker. And even if you don't have the money, this is an interesting one, they are a free service, a mortgage broker. But even if you don't have the money, let them build a model that you can work to. And if that model is, you may be ready straight away, or that model may be 1, 2, 3 years away, he's going to model your income, what it needs to be. He's going to model your deposit. He's going to model what sort of purchase price, depending on the area that you're going for. So that modelling is absolutely necessary at that young age to say, okay, here are the goalposts. I'm going to go practice now. Because a lot of 18, 19-year-olds are just not on the wage to support that loan. But at least you know where you've got to be, what you've got to aspire to, and get things cracking.
Yeah, cool. Interesting. Another thing as well, for the people that don't know, what's the go with, just say you're 18, 19, 20 years old, don't have a lot of money, but the parents have a good income, and that, they're looking to purchase a property for, or help with the purchasing of a property for their daughter or son or child. What's the go with that?
So there's two ways. There's two things that the banks will look at when they're lending money, that they're worried about you as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, any age. They're worried about income. Can you actually support? Can you support that mortgage like year in, year out, month in, month out? And they worry about equity. So they're worried about their sell-up risk. So when they sell you up because you stop paying the mortgage, are they going to get their money back? Now, it's deemed across Australia in property that if you've got a 20% deposit, that is, technically it's, actually I won't get technical, 80%. If you've got a 20% deposit, the bank sees that as super safe. Yeah. If you've got 10%, they believe it or not, they have to insure that risk. They have to insure that risk. They have to pay one-off insurance to insure that risk that they're taking with you. So the government came along and said, "Look, we're going to introduce some measures, and we're going to make it sort of easier." So I think that with parents coming in, they do that 20% buffer for their kid. They do that 20%. As long as the kid's got the income, they do that 20% buffer. The parents can't use their income, otherwise they've got to go on the title. They can go on the title, but then you're going to lose the rights to the first home buyer stuff. So generally, parents will put up that deposit for their kid. So the parents are borrowing 20%, the bank's giving you 80%, and there you go. And then what the parents normally do is, when that property value grows enough, the parents take that 20% back off the table, and little Johnny has that property in his name.
Has his beautiful apartment in DY.
Yeah.
Exactly. Amen. Too easy. That's it for this morning. Any other things, Mark?
Just get started, guys. It's a great discipline to have. Unfortunately, as Australians, it's one that we probably all need to have. A roof over your head, compulsory savings called a mortgage, and it has been it's the biggest asset class in the country by a long shot, and property's been very kind to people for hundreds of years in Australia. So it's a good, honest thing to do. And Sam, like, the big message for for an 18, 19, 20-year-old first home buyers is have fun. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like drilling it out, hardcore, stressed, and all that. Have that nice balance where you can still do the property, still do some holidays, still do family, still do work, and have a really good balance. Don't become too obsessive compulsive about buying that property and miss out on enjoying probably the best years of your life.
As I've been told, it's myself. I've got a couple saved up, but not enough to get that deposit in. Maybe in the near future. Sorry, but we'll just see how it goes.
Yep. And buddy, thanks for this morning. You bang on with some of the stuff you asked, and it's true emotions that people are feeling at your age and true questions, and hopefully we help someone today.
Exactly. So easy. Take care, Mark.
Thanks, bud. Take care. See ya.